Welcome everybody, delighted to have you here. We've got some old friends who've rejoined us today. Glad to have you with us, and also very warm welcome to those of you who are new. Delighted to be with you. I'm Clinton Wingrove, and I'll be running this, the first in a series of 8 webinars on what I'm sure is our favorite topic, performance management. And I'm not going to ask you whether you fall into the category of performance management is inspiring or in the category of performance management is infuriating. But of course, we're rapidly starting that time of year where we're thinking about year-end reviews and we're thinking about goal setting. And this introductory model takes us through research that I've conducted over just over 30 years, looking into the whole issue of productivity and in particular performance management. And I'd like to start very briefly with the question, what is performance management? What is performance rather? And of course, it's the results. Of course, it's what we pay people to produce. But as many organizations have learned over the years, it's not performance at any price, because it's how that also matters. And many organizations have suffered through setting aggressive goals and then finding that their employees met them by not following regulations, not following standard operating procedures, using methodologies for influencing customers that were inappropriate, etc. We also know, and we're in a period now where the speed at which we need to learn new things is accelerating at the fastest rate we've ever experienced. So performance also includes the extent to which we've grown, the extent to which we've acquired the skills to meet the current challenges, as well as the skills that we need to meet future demands. So consequently, performance isn't just about the what, it isn't just about the how, it's also about the growth. And many of our performance management systems and our performance management processes fail to recognize that that is a requirement, and also fail to recognize that actually the mix of those three actually varies. And I often use this chart, which you can see on the screen now, this map, which conveys an important message, and that is, as we go further up an organization, typically the what becomes all the more important. Now, of course, at the senior levels, we do expect our executives to display the values, we expect them to operate with integrity, etc. We also expect them to grow or at least understand the skill changes that are required. But at the senior level, the what is extremely important. But also in some of the entry-level jobs, the jobs which are critically important, they're often the foundation on which the company rests. But at many of the foundation jobs, and I take, for example, reception. A receptionist can't change the number of visitors, can't change the number of vendors coming in, can't change the number of employees arriving in the building. But how they act and the skills in which they develop are critically important to an organization. The receptionist is frequently the only person in the employ who actually sees everybody who enters any premises that your organization has. So consequently, the issue is, how do we, why is it that goal setting then doesn't work? And the answer is goal setting does to some extent work. The problem is that goals typically focus on outputs, and you cannot manage outputs. All we can manage is behavior. And often Olympians are used as examples. And Olympians don't wake up in the morning thinking exclusively about the height they're going to jump, the speed at which they're going to run, the length that they're going to throw the javelin. They're thinking primarily about how they're going to make minor incremental changes to their behavior. The result then will be that goal. So the how becomes critically important. And frequently that requires the development of new skills. And we see this increasingly in business now. People are having to think about how they use new technology with the explosion of AI. And we're frequently now seeing as much misuse of AI as we are of legitimate use. And also, if we look at the practice of goal setting, you can do your research online relatively easily. Goal setting for many can become a limiting process. And in many organizations, the formal process of setting goals poses a challenge, not just for the employee, but for the manager. A manager doesn't want their staff having goals which are too difficult to achieve, because that will demotivate them. The staff don't want a goal that's too difficult to achieve, because that will stretch them. And I hear many people say, "Oh no, look at the effect of goals on our top performers." Absolutely. But our top performers typically will perform well despite us, not because of us. And I see many goal setting processes aimed at the underperformers, but actually only having a positive impact on the top performers. And it's only goals that people are genuinely committed to that will actually achieve any shift in performance. So we need to have processes and systems that ensure that we have a sufficient focus. And let's call it goals, but let's think about goals of all three types. What do we want people to achieve? How do we want them to perform? And what skills and development do we want them to acquire? And what we know is, if we're going to get staff to give of their best, recent research has indicated, and this is particularly important if we've got people working remotely, what people want is four things. They want clarity. Clarity around what you expect of me, clarity around how you want me to behave, clarity around the skills that I need to develop, clarity around how my performance is perceived and how my potential is perceived. But they also want assurance, they want recognition, and they want empathy. They want assurance that we as management actually have their backs, that we as management are going to ensure that they are treated fairly. They want recognition not just for the final outcomes, but recognition for the effort that they put in and the improvement steps that they make. And they also want empathy. And we know that in the current working environment, empathy is a quality that's actually decreasing. There's interesting research now that indicates it's the excessive use of virtual tools which may be a contributory factor. And I think we're going to see some interesting results coming through from that within a relatively short time. Our next webinar is on the 29th of September. I'll show you the link shortly that you can use to actually register for that. During that webinar, we'll be covering setting direction in some depth, and we'll also be covering the conversation map, a simple map for how to have a 7-minute conversation with an employee on any one of these 7 topics, and how that will ultimately have a positive impact on their performance. We'll then take each of the other elements, the other 6 elements, on roughly a monthly basis. And if you want, there is a link where you can actually sign up for all of them, or you can choose to sign up individually. As I mentioned earlier, we've got some freebies available to you, some handouts, some quick tip guides. We affectionately refer to them as greatables, things which are going to enable you to be great managers. There's a link there which will enable you to download them.